Welcome in, everybody. Welcome back to the Go Bills podcast here on the Go Bills Podcast Network. We are doing our Sunday sit-down series a little bit early. We're doing a special edition of it the night before draft night, and I am joined by my buddy, Ryan Nelson, who is a New York Giants fan. He's not a Bills fan, unfortunately, but I'm going to try and convert him because there's only one team that plays in New York. Ryan, how are you doing, buddy?
Good. How are you? Thanks for having me, Brett.
No problem, man. I'm glad to have you, man. It's been a while since the last time we even talked, but it's good to have you on again, and we get to talk about football, which is something that both of us love.
Absolutely. I'm excited to be on. I'm more excited for the draft, though. Hopefully both of our teams make the right choice.
I think we will. I think we got two great coaches on our teams, both of them from Buffalo. So there's going to be some connections that we'll talk about later on, but we're going to get into this thing ready to go. I know I'm going to hit the ball rolling on this. I want the viewers to get to know you. This is what the Sunday Sit Down series is about. So I'm going to ask you a few questions to start off. We'll do our introductory. Tell the folks where you are from.
Originally, I was born and raised in Long Island, New York. So big Islanders, Yankees, Knicks, and New York Football Giants fan. I moved down to Florida my senior year of high school, then went to FGCU. That's where I met Brett. And I've been in Florida ever since. This is probably my 8th year in Florida. And been a New York sports fan all my life and will continue to be for the rest of my life.
That's pretty cool, man. I love that. What was the reason why your family moved from New York to Florida?
So I grew up playing baseball, and baseball is really big in Florida. In New York, lacrosse is unfortunately the biggest sport they have there. Long Island especially is known for its lacrosse. So my family thought it was a tremendous opportunity due to the weather, baseball, and kind of getting a fresh start down in Florida.
That's pretty cool, man. I love that. Tell the folks why you chose FGCU. What was so special about was there something about the campus, or was it just close to home?
So basically my family friends, they were a couple years older than me. They were going to FGCU during that Cinderella Sweet 16 run with Sherwood Brown in Dunk City. So they kind of showed me around the campus even before I moved down, and that kind of just made it even easier to decide to go there.
Yeah, for folks that don't know where Florida Gulf Coast is, it's in a town called Fort Myers, Florida, on the Gulf Coast of Florida, so the Gulf of Mexico side of Florida. It's about 30 minutes north of Naples, Florida. So that gives you a good proximity of where the campus is. So now, Ryan, I know that you and I were sports gurus and everything. Tell the folks, what is your favorite sports moment from Florida Gulf Coast? It could be basketball or it could be another sport.
Definitely. It was actually one of the first times I met you as well. I remember us going to the game. It was versus Lipscomb. It was to get into the dance. It was my freshman year. I'm not sure. Were you a sophomore or were you a freshman then?
I was a junior at that point. So
Junior.
I was a couple of years older than you. Now that was my first time I was a junior. So tell the folks that I was not the best student. We were young and dumb and did stupid things. And my first year going to the campus, I figured that it was a big school and, let's stay a little longer than we're supposed to. So I ended up being a 5th year. So it was a fun year, but yeah, go on with the Lipscomb.
Yeah. So Lipscomb, that was probably the first time I met you. We were just kind of in the crowd, just going crazy. I was actually standing next to you, I remember, and I was just like, "Hey, man, what's your name?" You're like, "Brett." I'm like, "Oh, I'm Ryan. Nice to meet you." We just started going crazy, and then we exchanged like information. Then I remember you sent me a picture of us going crazy together. I had like a towel over my head. You had like your shirt over your head, and we were on ESPN. So that's definitely one of my favorite moments at FGCU.
That was one of the best moments I can remember, and probably the best game that I've been to in all the years at FGCU. I think we were down like 28 or something points, and then we came back, made it within 3, and ended up losing that game.
Yeah.
The best moment was when I went home and I saw the game on TV, and you can see the moment where you and I are on ESPN a couple times, and we're high-fiving and everything. I still have that picture on my phone. It was just
crazy.
incredible moment. So I want to get into the sports side of you. Let's talk about your New York Football Giants. What made you choose to be a Giants fan? Was it just your family was involved, or your brother held you up and held you hostage and said you got to be a New York Giants fan?
This is a question I get asked probably every single day. So I kind of became a sports guru, New York Giants fan, Yankees fan. I mean, I kind of grew up with a baseball glove in my hand since I've been like 2 or 3 years old. So sports kind of run in my DNA. Yeah, I really didn't have a choice. My family, including my brother, my dad, my cousins, they were all kind of like, you don't have a choice on any of your sports teams, so you're a Giants, Yankees, Knicks, and Islanders fan, and that's all she wrote.
Yeah, it's pretty good time to be a fan of all those teams because the Islanders right now, they're starting to do pretty well. The Yankees, the Yankees are going to be in the playoffs almost every single year, and then you got the Giants that are up and coming, and they have a great coach in Brian Daboll. That's he's figuring out New York, and he's honestly one of the better coaches in the league already, especially after his first year. And you got a good quarterback in Daniel Jones and Saquon Barkley too. I was going to ask you, what's your favorite contract that was signed between Daniel Jones and Saquon Barkley?
My favorite contract that was signed. That's tough. So my friends have been giving me a lot of crap for the Daniel Jones signing. They think it's too much. I honestly love Jones. I do think they overpaid for him, but honestly, with how the quarterback market is going, I kind of don't really see a way around them giving him that kind of money. I do think the guaranteed money is a little bit on the heftier side, but hopefully he can play up to it. He had a really great year, and I think with Daboll, he's gonna thrive.
Yeah, it seems like every quarterback that's been in a Brian Daboll system has thrived. You look at Josh Allen. Even going back to Alabama with Tua Tagovailoa, and even the other quarterbacks like he was with Tom Brady for years in New England. He has 4 Super Bowls there. We're just hoping to see him win a Super Bowl as a coach, which would be great. Being a head coach. So let's talk about the draft that's coming up tomorrow, actually. So it's coming up very fast. What position would you like the New York Giants to pick?
Okay. So one thing I kind of noticed over the years as a Giants fan and as a football fan, I kind of think a lot of people get wrapped up in what they read. So they read this guy's going first, this guy's not going to go top 5, this guy's dropping because of this reason. I kind of think that teams kind of just put that out there just so they can maybe get their guy and don't have to trade up. But as a Giants fan, I would love for them to probably choose, I think, a defensive back. I think we've been hurting there for a while. A lot of people are saying receiver. We've signed a couple guys. I mean, they're not going to be all pros, but I'd like a corner in the first round. I think there's a lot of talent in the wide receiver position this year. I'd like a corner for sure.
If you had to pick one of the corners, do you know any of them that you would like to see?
I mean, the kid from not Chicago, the kid from Illinois, I've been seeing he's going to go top 10. I mean, as much as I would love for them to trade up and get him, I don't see that happening. I have been seeing Emmanuel Forbes, the kid from Mississippi State, going to the Giants. I would not mind that at all. He's a pretty decently sized corner, and I feel like he reads the quarterback. He's got some good play recognition.
So, yeah, he does. Yeah. He really does. He's somebody that reminds me a lot of even an older Darrelle Revis type of player. So I think he's going to come into the NFL, make a big impact on whatever team he's going to go to. Even if you don't get Forbes, you could grab Joey Porter Jr. too. Yes. Another excellent quarter too. And I think it's going to solidify one half of the field for you for many years to come.
Absolutely.
Now, I want to move on from the New York Giants, talk a little bit about the Buffalo Bills, because since this is Go Bills podcast and we're Bills fans on this channel, and I want to talk about the similarities between the New York Giants and the Buffalo Bills. Talk to the viewers a little bit about some of the similarities that you see in your team compared to the Buffalo Bills.
even in Florida, I kind of noticed this. This I feel like didn't have was it was never said to me. I just kind of noticed it. So being in Florida as a Giants fan, I've noticed that the fans are still very, very passionate. The Bills fans are obviously one of the most passionate fan bases in the league. So I definitely think that's a big similarity. But on the side of the ball, I definitely think that both defenses are very strong. One difference I see between them both, I feel like the Bills' run game can definitely use a little bit of work. The Giants have kind of grown into the run game a little bit more with Saquon and Jones. I think the Bills, if they get a good running back, you think they should draft one? What's your thought there?
Well, a lot of people are talking about Bijan Robinson in the draft
Okay,
for the Bills, being as we have two running backs that are on 1 year contracts in Damian Harris as well as Naheem Hines. And
gotcha.
grabbing another running back, in my opinion, later in the draft, I would love, but I just don't see the Bills utilizing a first round pick on a running back because we don't utilize the running back enough in our system.
Gotcha.
Now, if we could move and grab Rashawn Johnson later in the draft, I'm
Uh-huh.
totally on board with that. He's a great running back who was actually the teammate of Bijan Robinson. So if we were to grab him later in the draft, I'd be okay with it, but just not early in the draft. You've
Gotcha.
seen the running backs that go early for the Bills. You look at Marshawn Lynch and
Yep.
even Jay Spiller. They didn't pan out for the Bills. So I'm not ready to spend a first round pick on a running back, and I think there's other areas of need for the Bills right now.
Gotcha.
Now let's move on from the Bills, and I want to ask you this question because I know this is something that you would dream of. If you could have one player on your team that's on the Bills currently, besides Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs, who would you take on your team?
That's a great question. Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs would love to have them on the Giants. Um, but honestly, he's been my guy for a couple seasons. I've been watching him really closely. I've drafted him in fantasy, overdrafted him in fantasy, I'll say, just because I like him so much. I think he's great at blocking. I think he's a great receiver as well. I like the tight end Dawson Knox. He's the man.
Yeah, I think you would bring a really good emphasis to the offense that you don't have right now because last year you had Kyle Rudolph as your tight end. You also, I'm trying to remember the other tight end that you had, but you didn't utilize the tight end position enough. And that's something that for the Bills and the Giants, I think that that's something that they need to utilize more of because you can have a security blanket for your quarterback, both Josh Allen and Daniel Jones, and we don't utilize that enough, especially with the height that the tight ends have. And this year is by far the best year for the tight ends in the last 10 years in the draft. So I'm hoping that even in the second round, if there's guys like Darnell Washington or even if Michael Mayer slips a little bit, one of us could grab one of those tight ends
Um,
and get a great tight end for years to come that can stabilize the middle of the field for our teams.
Absolutely.
So let's talk a little bit about the history between the two franchises, and let's talk about the run of the 90s for both franchises. Now, we'll talk about, first of all, the 90s Giants, and you had great guys on the team. You had, you can talk about LT and even the run that you went on for a few years. You ended up beating our Bills, and that breaks my heart quite a bit because we had a 4 year run making the Super Bowls. We didn't win any of them. Lost the first Super Bowl in Tampa Bay. And I want you to talk a little bit about that 90s run and let's talk about the players on the teams and talk to me about, we'll start with the quarterbacks and then we'll talk about the defensive ends. We'll do those two positions. So let's talk about the
Yeah.
similarities between the quarterbacks at the time and then the defensive ends.
Okay.
So
So Q. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
go ahead.
So you said QBs first. So Mr. Philly Sims versus Jim Kelly. Both very prolific, big, strong arm, pocket passing quarterbacks. You think they should both be in the Hall of Fame?
Both of them should be in the Hall of Fame, in my opinion.
I
I,
agree.
I think both for what they did for the franchises, I think both did an amazing job. They set the example of what it takes to be a quarterback for their franchises, and they elevated it to a new level. And then I think that the new generation for both of our teams uh, took it over, and I think that yours was a little bit ahead of ours, with being as it was Eli Manning taking over the quarterback position for the New York Giants, and then Josh Allen coming in and what he's done for our franchise and the hope that he gives us, and then how much the city embraces him, and the city embraced Eli Manning for many years that he was there. So I know that they hated him and they loved him, but I mean, that's football. That's what every fan does. You know, there's times where
Exactly.
I say I dislike Josh Allen because of the stupid decision that he makes. That's because both of our quarterbacks turn the ball over a little bit too much.
Yeah.
So talk about the defensive ends too.
So the defensive end, obviously, I'm gonna say it. I think Lawrence Taylor's the greatest defensive player of all time. It's a it's a very sensitive subject to some, but to me, I think he's the best of all time. I think he was very ahead of schedule. He's one of the guys that I think could even play in the game today if he was 25 years old and had the same stature, athleticism, all that. I really think he was one of the original pass rushing linebackers, and he just really changed the game with that swim move. He had power, speed. He was a combination of everything. Harry Carson, tremendous on the other side as well. It was a nice 1-2 punch for the Giants in the 90s and the 80s as well.
And then you move on from there and go to the Buffalo Bills. And I know you're probably not going to know all the names for the Buffalo Bills. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to test you on that. But you got Bruce Smith. Okay.
Yeah.
So talk a little bit about Bruce Smith.
Bruce Smith, again, one of the most prolific and memorable pass rushers in the NFL. I mean, he helped bring you guys to 4 Super Bowls. He's played over 15 seasons in the league with was it you and the Redskins?
It was, yeah. So he was with your rival.
Yeah. So was he a part of the team that beat you guys in the Super Bowl, or he was on all 4 actually?
He was on the Bills for all 4. He ended up going to him and Furman Thomas at the time.
Yes.
Were both released the same year. It was after the 2000 season, and both of them ended up signing with different teams. One was for Furman Thomas. I believe he went to Miami, and then it was Thurman, Andre Reed, and Bruce Smith. All 3 were taken off the Bills at the same year. So it was a very sad year for the Bills at that point, and it was something that none of us were expecting.
Yeah.
But if you had to pick one of the 2 defensive ends to it was the final play of the game, and you had to pick one play for them to make a sack, which one are you choosing, Lawrence Taylor or Bruce Smith?
I mean, I'm a little biased. I'm gonna go with Lawrence Taylor, but I know that Bruce Smith has had one of the best careers of a right end.
Yeah,
in the league history.
I agree with you there. And listen, there's no wrong answer on that. It's
exactly,
pure pass rush luck. So I got a couple more questions in the intro section, and then we'll move on to this or that. But a couple more that we're going to ask you. I know you told the story of how we met, and I want you to tell a little bit of a funny story that you have of something dumb that I did that you remember, something stupid. Tell us a story about that.
I mean, I'm not gonna give anything away specifically, but I guess I'll add on to how you said being a young kid in college and how we kind of make some stupid decisions. We've all failed a couple classes, so I mean, not gonna say how many times, but
yeah,
I think we've all been there.
Yeah, it's okay if you want to bring up a story, you want to mention anything, you can mention it. It's no problem. I understand. I'm not going to be upset, so you can mention it too.
I honestly don't want to rum any feathers or get anybody in trouble here.
I got you, man. I got you. That's good. All right. So last question I'm going to ask you in the beginning is
Okay.
I know you're talking about going into sports writing and you want to get into this field. So it's a great way for you to get started in this. What made you want to become a sports writer?
Um, like I said, I was born with a baseball glove in my hand, and I've been watching sports since as long as I can remember. Being a sports writer specifically, I remember every single Saturday I would wake up and like when I didn't have school, and I would watch Quick Pitch for hours. I would watch it from 7 in the morning till the reruns ended at 1 o'clock to the first pitch of the first game on Saturday, the matinee game. Um, so definitely, not baseball. Sports have definitely just been a passion of mine in general, and I don't know. I like to read and write too. I guess I'm a nerd, but I'll say it.
Hey, there's nothing wrong with it because I remember times when we were in class when we would text each other about sports that was going on in the area.
Yeah,
So it was pretty good to do. Let's move
absolutely.
on. Let's move on to the this or that questions that I have for you.
Okay.
Got a few of these here. We're going to keep it more towards the Giants and Bills a little bit, and
Okay.
we'll add some fun questions in here. So the first this or that question that I have for you is: are the Giants a New York or a New Jersey team?
I would say a New York team, just for fandom wise. I feel like most people that you meet from New York are probably Giants fans. Um, I mean, I haven't really been to Jersey too often besides going to the games and maybe like vacation. But geographically they're in New Jersey. But I would say more New York.
Yeah, I agree with you there. Would you prefer your team? Well, not your team. Would you prefer to play offense or defense in the NFL?
In the NFL, I would like to play offense. I would either like to be a little slot receiver or QB. I feel like QB, you're kind of in control of the offense. You got guys relying on you, not even just on offensive side of the ball, but the coaches, the defense, the towel boy. They all want to win, and the game kind of lays on your shoulders as the quarterback. That's what I like.
Yeah, I agree with you there. Your favorite player, is it either Lawrence Taylor or Eli Manning?
Um, I'm kind of gonna go with a wild card here. Growing up, my favorite player to watch was actually Ahmad Bradshaw. I just love the way that he had a combination of speed and power for how little of a guy he was. It was honestly incredible to watch, and he was kind of the one-two punch with him and Brandon Jacobs in the Super Bowl was awesome to watch. But out of those two, I would say Eli Manning, just because I grew up with him.
That's a really good choice. Better catch. Would So the helmet catch or the one-handed Odell Beckham catch? The helmet catch from David Tyree.
I'm gonna say the helmet catch just because of the implication it had. It was in the biggest game on third down. That would have been fourth down. I can't believe he still didn't get sacked. Watching that play every time just gives me chills. So definitely the helmet catch.
That's honestly one of the best plays in Super Bowl history that I can remember. Besides, probably I would say the Santonio Holmes catch in the
Yeah,
back of the end zone that toe drag swag that you call from Nate Burleson. That's one of the better catches that I can remember. Uh, but let's move on. So I don't know if have you ever been to Buffalo before?
No, I haven't been to Orchard Park.
Okay. So I'm going to ask you this question just based off of watching it on TV. Would you rather
Okay.
see the Bills have a dome stadium or an open air stadium?
The Bills, I would love for them to keep that open air stadium. You kidding me? Watching those fans throw those snowballs, that was probably one of the best things I've seen all season. I I think it gives the Bills another dimension of home field advantage, having the crazy fans, having the snow, just having the open air atmosphere. Definitely an open air stadium for the Bills.
Yeah, I agree with you there. Better quarterback career overall, Jim Kelly or Phil Simms?
Regular season, I'm gonna go with Jim Kelly, but playoffs, I gotta choose my boy Philly. Just I'm not gonna explain why.
It's understandable. He won a Super Bowl, so I get it completely. So it's understandable there. Better food overall, the New York cheesecake or the Buffalo wings?
Buffalo wings, 1,000% every single day. You go to watch football, you're eating buffalo wings. It's not even a contest.
If you had to choose for your wings, your dipping sauce, do you choose ranch or blue cheese?
I'm a blue cheese guy.
That's a good answer there. You're going to be loved in Buffalo. So I
Yeah.
know that you're doing this show for me. I appreciate it. So we're gonna have to send you some wings and some blue cheese and everything from upstate New York. I'm gonna try and get a hookup for you to get some
That'd be awesome.
blue cheese and everything. So let's move on to the truth or lie your ass off question. And this is a segment that, as you know, you're gonna love it because it's a personal question that I get to ask you.
Okay.
It's my choice of a question. You have to answer telling the truth or lying your ass off. The viewers get to decide if you in the comments section below. If
Okay.
you're telling the truth or lying your ass off. So the question I want to ask you, I thought of a couple questions, and I know that we're trying to stay. I don't want to upset you or anything, so I'm going to give you the best question that I can so far.
Okay.
So there's a little birdie that told me the story, and I'm not going to name the person out here though, but a little birdie told me that you received a speeding ticket at some point in your lifetime. So I want to ask you this: have you ever gotten a speeding ticket in your life?
When I was 16 years old, I was with 3 girls in a vehicle, coming home from school. I was going 85 miles per hour in a construction zone, and I did not receive a ticket from the officer. He actually let me go within 5 minutes of being pulled over, and I have not been pulled over ever since that occurrence.
So the viewers get to decide whether you're telling the truth or lying your ass off. And this could be a totally made up story that he's telling us, but you have to see whether Ryan is telling the truth or if he just BS the story and he made it up. So let the comments decide. I won't say whether that's true or not because I might know the answer. I might not. So Ryan, I really do appreciate you coming on the show. I'm going to do one last segment with you. And it's a confession time. You can take the floor now. You can talk about anything that you want to. If there's anything you want to get off your chest, whether that's something personal to you or if there's anything you can possibly think of that you want to say, the floor is yours. You can say whatever you want at this point.
At this point, I kind of feel like I kind of got all my opinions, my point across. I kind of just want to say thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. Really appreciate your time. This is a fun show. I'd definitely love to be on it again. And I guess I got one last question for you.
Go for it.
It's kind of it's a Bills related question as well. If you had one position you could be on the Bills, not a player, so like a front office position, you could be like a scout, coach, owner, GM, whatever. What position would you pick within the front office?
Oh man, that's a tough one because I could be Sean McDermott for a day. Now, do I get to be the current person or do I get to be myself in that position?
No, you get to be yourself, like Brett
Myself.
McDurphy, the GM, or the
Gotcha.
scout, the towel
Gotcha.
boy.
Okay. Now, because I was going to say I could be like Sean McDermott and uh, make a tough choice with a tough decision that some people wouldn't like. But I'm going to choose. Gosh, I'm going to choose GM. I've always wanted to be a GM in the NFL because you get to make the decisions not only for the coach, but you also get to make pretty much the decisions for the team and what players are on the roster. So that's a very good question that you brought up. But I got to say GM just because you get to decide the contracts and who you get to re-sign and who you can trade, as well as pretty much you're deciding the draft too. So I want to make the decisions for the franchise. So what position would you choose for the Giants?
I'd like to be an owner. I'd like to sit up in the press box, go down to the field, meet the players, sign the checks. I don't know. Being an owner, I would like to be more of a hands-on owner, which I feel like fans don't like typically. They don't like the fan that runs the team. But yeah, I would probably like to be the owner slash GM, kind of like a Jerry Jones. So you kind of get the best of both worlds.
Yeah, I actually like that because being an owner that cares about the franchise, you look at guys like Jerry Jones or
Exactly.
Mark Cuban, even that cares about his franchise. There's so many different ones that come to mind. And being an owner that actually cares about the franchise and wants what's best for the team is something I really do see you doing. And if there's ever a situation where you do become an owner in the NFL, if the money comes rolling in for both of us, we hit the lotteries and everything. I mean, we can, I'll make sure everything work. If I won $4 billion or $5 billion, we'd buy both franchises and you live out your dream. It would be so freaking cool. But
That would be.
I just say, I got to make sure I get tickets to all the games. If we're playing in the Super Bowl or something, we got to make sure that we get tickets for both games.
Absolutely.
So, last question I'm going to ask you, actually, because
Okay.
I want to end it on a really good one. If you had to pick one, I know we talked about position on the team, but
Okay.
a special teams position that you could play for your team, which one would you pick? Punter or kicker?
I was gonna segue into a different thing.
Or gunner?
I was gonna go with Gunner.
I like that.
It is so tough. I don't know. Being a kicker, you can just completely change the whole entire complexion of a game. You've seen it countless times. People miss one kick, they're down on themselves. They miss an extra point. It's just a snowball effect. With a punter, you make one bad punt, or you kick it out of bounds. It's just there's too much pressure there. With a gunner, you make one big hit, you force a fumble, you do one big thing. I don't know. Your name's out there, and then you can just move up the ladder. Maybe you're a receiver as a gunner or a corner or whatever the case may be, and then you could just move up the depth chart like that. I think.
Yeah, I agree with you there. The gunner position was pretty much changed when Steve Tasker came into the NFL, and
Mhm.
he changed the position for a gunner. Him and in my opinion, Don Beebe too was another great one for the Buffalo Bills that
Yeah.
changed the position. For me, it would have to be kicker because I want to experience the situation where you're inside of Feinmark Stadium or you're inside of, at the time it was Ralph Wilson Stadium, and
Yeah.
you get to feel the wind and that swirling wind inside of the stadium, and I have to make that kick with the 70,000 people around me and experiencing that, and I make the kick. Now, if I miss the kick, I'm going to be known as the biggest jackass to ever imagine in the Buffalo, New York, and everybody's going to come to my house and they're going to want to pretty much kick my ass. And I understand that. That's, I'm a fan of the Bills too. I get it. I would probably go to their house and kick their ass too for missing that kick. But if you make it, you're the most loved person in the city, and if you miss it, you're the most hated person in the city. So
Exactly.
I'd want to experience that one kick and pray to God I make it. But
I like that. I like that.
Ryan, thank you so much for being on the podcast, man. I really do appreciate you coming on, and it's great to catch up with you again. It's been a while, buddy, but as soon as I get back down to Fort Myers, I would love to take you out, have a nice meal with you, see you again, and hang out like old times, man. It would be great to do. So
Absolutely, dude. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
anytime, man. You're always welcome on the show.
Thank you.
This has been the Go Bills podcast. We will see you tomorrow for another edition of the Go Bills podcast. We'll be doing our pregame show starting at 8 p.m. on YouTube, along with Nickel City Mafia and the Red, White, and Bills. We will also be doing a mock draft before the NFL draft, so we'll have that going on as well. That'll be starting at 7 p.m. That'll be on YouTube as well. And then we'll also have our giveaway for our jersey giveaway on the live show at 8 p.m. So make sure that you go on our Instagram channel and enter to win that jersey because it's something that's going to be special for one of you. Like I said, this has been the Go Bills podcast. We will see you next time for another edition of the Go Bills podcast. And don't forget to follow us on all social media platforms, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, Twitter, along with the website, gobillspodcast.com. We will see you tomorrow for another edition of the Go Bills podcast. And as always, go Bills and go Giants.